Chapter 15. When Hope Returns. The brigade marches back down the path it had come, banners snapping in the morning wind. Royce glances over his shoulder one last time. The other slaves remain in line, their faces hollow, eyes sunk with regret. He sees in them the future he might have shared, chained, broken, waiting for death. A shiver runs through him, not from the cold, but from the realization that he had chosen his fate. However uncertain the road ahead, at least it was his. Hours pass in a haze of trudging feet and iron discipline. The company halts now and again for water and meager rations. Royce is handed a skin of cold water, a hunk of bread and strips of salted meat. He devours it, each bite raw and desperate, hardly tasting the flavor of real food after so long without it. For the first time in months, he feels strength slowly seeping back into his veins, though his body is far from recovered. Torvi remains in her carriage, shadowed by her elite guard. Royce steals glances, but the armored sentries surrounding her reveal nothing. The land itself feels foreign as they march farther north. Rolling fields give way to harsher, rockier ground. Streams dark with autumn runoff, the air sharpened by the edge of winter. Royce takes it all in, forcing himself to memorize the terrain. If freedom ever came, he would need every memory, every detail to guide him south once again. One second. I need to set this on repeat. Twice more, the column stops at farmsteads, and Royce watches Torby repeat the ritual. Unlike Harden, these Jarls submit without protest. They bow, pledge their oaths, and hand over men. By the time the sun sinks low, the chill of the night settles over them. Royce's legs ache, every step dragging against the exhaustion that months of slavery carved into him. Yet, there is something new burning in him now, the faint spark of will, a reason to fight. At last, the column rounds a bend, and a military camp sprawls before them. Torches burn in the dusk, their light bouncing off rows of rough-hewn wooden structures, and a larger hall at the center. Smoke curls from fires, mixing with the tang of sweat, leather, and steel. Tents line the outer ring, soldiers moving in and out with casual discipline of hardened men who have seen too much war to be impressed by another march. The column halts. A commander steps forward, gesturing toward a row of empty shelters. Find yourselves a tent, rest. Training begins at first light. Royce and the other recruits shuffle toward the canvas shelters, each man dazed by hunger, fear, or reluctant relief. Royce reaches for the flap of a tent, ready to claim his space, when a hand slams into his chest, shoving him hard into the dirt. He rolls onto his back and looks up, towering over him with one of Halden's former guards, his shadow long in the torchlight, his eyes gleaming with malice. He sneers down at Royce, fist clenched. "This is my tent, slave," the man growls, his voice dripping with venom. Though Royce's blood seethes, every instinct demanding he strike back, he knows he hasn't the strength. His body is still frail, beaten down by months of servitude, and this man towers over him with full confidence of cruelty. Clenching his jaw, Royce forces himself to stagger to his feet, swallowing the humiliation like poison. What's going on, Wit? A few of Halden's other men gather, watching him with smirks and folded arms, waiting for him to lash out so they can pounce. Royce's fists tremble at his sides, but he exhales sharply through his nose and turns away. Survival is the only victory he can claim tonight. He trudges farther down the line of tents, their flaps swaying in the cold wind, until he finds one left vacant. Pulling the flap aside, he steps into the dim shelter. It's sparse, but far better than anything he's had in months. A straw-stuffed mattress with a couple of fur blankets, a small fire pit blackened with soot, and packs of rations neatly stacked in the corner. Royce drops onto the bedding, depletion dragging him down. He pulls the furs over his battered body, his muscles sighing with relief at the modest comfort. Moonlight filters faintly through the fabric of the tent above, striping the peak in pale silver. His mind races, replaying every step that led him here. The back-breaking days of Halden's farm, Torvi's sudden arrival, the choice that ripped him from the line. And through it all, Octavia, her face, her voice, her stubborn strength. The thought of her burns brightest of all, the one ember he refuses to let die. As his eyelids grow heavy, Royce clings to that ember. For the first time in months, he drifts towards sleep, not with dread, but with the fragile, dangerous spark of hope that perhaps, against all odds, he might see her again. Royce's sleep is deep but restless, haunted by fragments of memory and flashes of Octavia's face. When the first horn blares through the camp at dawn, he jolts awake, heart hammering, body stiff from the straw bed. The cold air cuts through the tent as he pushes aside the flap. Already, the camp is alive. Soldiers march in formation. The clatter of weapons, the bark of waters, and the low grunts of men already sparring create a chorus of discipline and violence. Smoke rises from cook fires, stinging Royce's nose. "Move!" a guard yells, shoving Royce forward with the blunt end of a spear. Royce stumbles, then falls in the step with the newly claimed recruits. All of them still skinny, uncertain, but now dressed in rough training tunics and given blunt wooden weapons. They're herded into a training yard, a wide, packed earth field encircled by wooden stakes. Torches from the night still gutter along the edges, smoke trailing into the pale morning sky. The seasoned warriors watch from the sidelines, their expressions flat, some even amused, as though waiting for the spectacle of failure. A towering instructor steps forward, his beard streaked with grey, his arms like iron bands. He studies the line of men with cold eyes, then smacks the flat of his sword against a wooden shield. The crack echoes like thunder. "You're here because you were chosen," he growls. But don't mistake that for worth. You are nothing until you've proven otherwise. If you cannot endure, he slams the shield again, then you are already dead. Royce grips the wooden axe he's been given. It feels too light, almost like a toy, but his bruised fingers ache all the same. Around him, the others glance nervously, some already trembling. Royce straightens his back, forcing himself to look calm. Inside, his body screams with exhaustion, but his mind burns with a stubborn fire. This is a chance, however cruelly given. "Pass!" the instructor bellows. "Strike until one falls. That is the only rule." Royce and his paired opponent step into the middle of the square when the command is given. They circle each other in the packed dirt ring, wooden axes clutched tight in blistered hands. The man across from him looks thin, his eyes sunken, but desperation sharpens him like a concerned wolf. He lunges first, swinging wide and wild. Royce steps aside with surprising ease, his instincts still surprisingly quick. The blow whistles past his ribs. He pivots, swinging his axe in a controlled arc that slams against the man's side. The wood cracks against bone, and the man stumbles with a gasp of pain. The men watching around the circle murmur in surprise. His body still may ache, but this time on Halden's farm. The punishments, the constant survival, have honed him. He is leaner, but harder, steel beneath the bruises. The other man regains his footing, snarling, and charges again. He swings recklessly, but Royce blocks high, the wood-on-wood striking sending a shock down his arm. He pushes back with a roar, driving his shoulder into the man's chest, knocking him to the dirt. The instructor doesn't stop the fight, only bellows, "On your feet!" The man scrambles up, but Royce doesn't hesitate. He strikes again, the flat of his axe cracking against the man's thigh. Another blow to the arm, another across the ribs. Each strike deliberate, not to kill, but to dominate. The man finally collapses, wheezing, clutching his side. He cannot rise again. Roy stands above him, chest heaving, his axe dripping sweat from his palm. The instructor steps forward, his face expressionless. Then slowly he nods. "You'll do," he growls. Royce feels the faintest ember of pride spark in his chest, but it's fleeting, for the sound of horses and armored boots draws every head toward the edge of the yard. Torvi arrives. The soldiers part for her like the sea. She steps gracefully into the training yard, her long cloak trimmed in white fur, the sunlight catching strands of her golden hair. Her guards fan out around her. Her gaze sweeps the line of recruits with surgical precision, sharp blue eyes missing nothing. She lingers on Royce, his stance still proud, his chest rising and falling after the fight. For a long, charged moment, her expression doesn't change, though the faintest lift at the corner of her lips suggests amusement or approval. The instructor bows his head slightly. "Milady," he says gruffly. Torvi doesn't answer at once. She studies Royce for one last heartbeat, then turns her attention to the rest of the recruits. Her voice rings clear across the yard. "King Axel demands warriors, not cattle. If you wish to live, you will train until you are forged into iron. If you falter, you are of no use to me or to him. Remember that." The silence that follows is heavier than any roar. Royce's grips his axe tighter, sweat running down his back. For the first time in months, he feels the eyes of someone powerful, someone who notices him, not as a slave, but as a fighter. Torvi slowly turns to leave, her cloak trailing lightly behind her. "Next opponent, step forward." From the line of recruits, a familiar figure strides out, his grin twisted with malice. Royce's stomach knots as recognition burns. It is the same brute who shoved him into the dirt the night before, one of Halden's dogs. "That slave's mine," the man growls, cracking his knuckles around the wooden training sword. At these words, Torvi pauses. Her head tilts ever so slightly, curiosity pricking her composure. She turns back, her icy blue eyes narrowing on the ring. Royce doesn't see her. He doesn't see anything but the man before him. Every memory of being degraded, every blow, every order barked at him, all of it boils into a white-hot rage he's never known before. This is his moment for redemption. The instructor gives no ceremony. Begin. The man charges first, swinging low. Royce blocks, the clash jarring his arms, then counters with a heavy overhead strike. His opponent sidesteps, driving a shoulder into Royce's chest. Royce stumbles but keeps his footing, whipping his axe sideways. The blow glances off the man's rib, drawing a grunt. A murmur rises from the watching men. Royce fights with fury, each swing carrying the weight of months in captivity. He presses forward, teeth bared, and for a moment it looks as though his rage alone might carry him to victory. But Halden's man is stronger, fresher. He parries a wild strike, then slams his knee into Royce's gut. The air rushes out of Royce in a choking gasp. A follow-up blow cracks across his shoulder, numbing his arm. Royce staggers, but refuses to go down. Again and again, he is struck, sweeping strikes that batter him toward the edge of the ring. His body screams in pain, but his will does not bend. He hurls himself back into the fray, landing another desperate blow to the man's thigh. It earns him a retaliatory strike to the jaw that drops him to one knee. "Yield!" the instructor roars. Royce spits blood into the dirt, dragging himself upright. His legs tremble, vision blurring, but he raises his axe again, defiance blazing in his eye. The man laughs and knocks him down once more with a savage strike to his ribs. Royce wheezes, his body failing, but still, he claws at the dirt, forcing himself back up. The recruits are silent now, transfixed. Even the guards shift uneasily, sensing something different in him. Torvi steps forward, raising her hand. "Enough!" Her voice cuts through the air, sharp and cold as a blade. The instructor freezes mid-command. Royce's opponent halts, lowering his weapon, confusion flickering across his face. Torvi's eyes linger on Royce, battered, broken, but still standing. His chest heaves, his axe droops, yet the fire in his gaze hasn't dimmed. She speaks, her tone calm but laced with authority. "He's proven enough." Her word ripples through the yard. The instructor bows his head in acknowledgement, motioning for the fight to end. Royce sways, blood running from his split lip, his entire body screaming with pain. But inside, that spark glows brighter. He didn't win, but he didn't surrender either. And most importantly, Torvi saw it. The rest of the day passes in the haze of drills. Royce's ribs ache with every breath, his split lips still bleeding. Yet the instructors push them relentlessly, marching in formation, lifting shields until their arms shake, swinging practice weapons until their hands blister. The other recruits steal glances at him, some with a spark of respect, other with weariness. They saw him refuse to yield, and though he lost, his defiance lingers like a shadow among them. Torvi remains on the edge of the yard, silent, watchful. She says little, never acknowledging Royce directly, but her presence is felt with every step. When she finally departs, Royce can't shake the feeling that she left with him in mind. By nightfall, fatigue crushes him. The recruits collapse into their tents, their bodies broken by the day's trading. Royce lies on a straw pallet, staring at the dim light seeping through the canvas above. Pain racks his body, but beneath it, a quiet pride holds steady. The days blur into one another, each marked by bruises, sweat, and aching muscles. Training is grueling. Sunrise to sunset. Drills that strip a man bare and force him to rebuild himself harder, sharper. Yet to Royce, it is different than the endless toil of Halden's farm. Here, he is fed. He sleeps without chains. His body begins to mend. Proper rations give him strength. Rest brings him back endurance. Slowly, the skeletal look in his eyes fade, replaced by the faint flicker of the man he once was. Every clash, every experience pits him time and time against Halden's men. The ones who spat on him, mocked him, shoved him into the dirt. At first they dominate him, as they always have. But with each new day, He holds on longer. His swings carry more weight. His footing steadier. His shield raised quicker. Each time they face him, the odds shift. The gap narrows. The smirks on their faces are still there. But now, beneath them, Royce sees something else. A grudging recognition. Torvi is ever present. She arrives in silence, her guards a wall of steel around her. Her eyes always sweeping the yard. She rarely speaks, rarely interferes, yet her gaze never wavers. Royce feels it like a weight on his shoulders, watching him stumble, watching him rise again. Not pity, not amusement, something colder. She is measuring him, as if tallying what he might yet become. By the week's end, Royce's body is filled with new bruises and scars, but the pain feels different now. Less like a burden, more like proof. Every mark is a reminder that he has not yielded, that he is clawing his way back. When the instructors announce a day of rest, a cheer ripples through the tired recruits. For the first time in months, Royce almost smiles. The next day, he lies in his tent, his body aching but strangely alive. He reflects, staring at the play of torchlight through the canvas above. He knows he is far from Kolsvik, deeper in Axel's lands than he had ever imagined. He knows that escape now would be death, and even at full strength, the odds near impossible. Yet the thought gnaws at him. And worse still, the whisper of war. He cannot shake the thought that if he survives this place, he may one day be forced to raise steel against Axel, steel for Axel, against Leif, against Thorin, against Helga, and against Octavia. The thought burns like acid in his chest, but the thought does not linger long. Suddenly, commotion erupts not far from Royce's tent. The sound of jeering and shuffling feet cuts through the camp's usual murmur. Royce pushes himself upright and pulls the tent flap aside. In the half-light, he sees them, Halden's men, their faces twisted with cruel amusement, circling one of the new recruits. They shove him from one to the next like a plaything. Each time the man stumbles back to his feet, another fist or boot knocks him down again. Royce recognizes the recruit. He is no warrior, but a slave from another farm. His frame is thin, his movements clumsy, his body still frail. Unlike Royce, he has no scars earned in battle, no strength yet rekindled by food and training. He is prey, cornered, and helpless. The other recruits linger nearby, frozen spectators. Their eyes flicker nervously between the tormentors and the victim, none daring to intervene. The air is thick with unspoken fear. Fear of drawing the attention of Halden's men. Fear of sharing the same fate. Royce steps out of his tent, his boot crunching against the packed dirt as he takes a few paces closer. His chest rises and falls, faster now. His fists clench, nails digging into his palm. The anger inside him simmering hot. For days he's endured their sneers, their arrogance, their sense of power. Now, seeing them tear into someone else too weak to fight back, the fire in his gut roars to life. He takes a sharp breath, steadying himself. The choice hangs heavy. To stay silent, like the rest, or to act, knowing full well that it might cost him. Royce exhales slowly. And that, my friends, brings us to our first poll. What will Royce do? Will he help the man, or will he stay back? Vote! 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 I'm gonna piss quick. I don't want to have to piss mid-chapter. Hold on. But make sure you vote. Yeah, couple 13, 14. Get your votes in here. Get your votes in here. Couple 13, 14. We don't have as many people as we did last week here, but that's fine. If you want to vote, make sure you vote. About 40 seconds. Your votes matter. Looks like we have a conclusive vote to help the man so far. Looks like everyone wants to help the man. Six to 0. Six to 0. And there it is. Chet has decided to help the man. All right. Royce shoulders his way through the ring of onlookers, shoving aside two recruits. His voice cuts through the taunts like steel drawn from a scabbard. Leave him alone. The circle of Halden's men hesitate as Roy steps into the open. For a heartbeat, silence hangs heavy. Then one of them, the same man who has hounded Royce since his arrival, strides forward. His grin is cruel, his finger jabbing into Royce's chest. And what are you going to do about... Royce doesn't hesitate. And he doesn't let him finish. His fists flash forward, crashing against the man's jaw with a crack. The man staggers back, eyes wide in shock. Blood spraying across the dirt. He spits crimson into the dust, disbelief etched across his face. Then, chaos erupts. The pack descends, two of them slamming Royce to the ground. Fists rain down as the thrash is kicking, snarling, fighting like a concerned wolf. Every strike he lands feels like defiance, like fire clawing its way back into his veins. Around them, something unexpected sparks. Several onlookers, slaves and recruits alike, surge forward, emboldened by Royce's stand. The air fills with shouting, fists, boots, bodies colliding. The area explodes into a full-blown brawl. Royce grits his teeth, bucking against the pile of bodies crushing him. His vision blurs, but he keeps swinging, refusing to stop. For every blow he takes, rage drives another wild strike. And then, a horn. The sharp blast cuts through the roar like thunder. The melee stutters, men staggering apart, breaths ragged. Armed guards pour into the fray, the weapons cracking against their backs, shoving fighters away from one another. The recruits freeze, scrambling back, panting. From the chaos, she emerges. Torvi. Her usual calm, icy poise is nowhere to be found. Her eyes blaze, her lips drawn tight in fury, the air around her seeming to stiffen with her presence. She doesn't waste words. Her arm lifts, finger pointed directly at Royce. Him. He comes with me. Her voice is cold as steel, leaving no question. A towering man at her side, one of her inner guard, steps forward with quiet authority. Bro dear, handle this. Yes, my lady. He replies with a bow of his head, already moving to restore order. Royce is yanked upright, his chest heaving, blood smearing his mouth. Halden's men glared daggers at him, but none dared to challenge. None of them dared to challenge Torvi's decree. With rough shoves from her guards, he is pulled free from the mob and forced to stumble behind her. Torvi turns without another glance, her golden hair catching the torchlight as she strides away. Roy staggers in her wake, every eye in the yard fixed on him, the taste of blood and defiance still hot on his tongue. Torvi's men lead Royce through the heart of the camp, their armored boots crunching against the half-frozen earth. The glow of fires flickers across hardened faces. Soldiers hunched over bowls of stew, others sharpening blades, some raising their heads as the procession passes. A hush follows them, not of silence, but of diverted attention. Royce feels the weight of every eye, though none dare approach with Torvi at the center of the column. They stop before the largest structure in camp, a two-story wooden hall that dominates the space like a sentinel. Royce had seen it only from a distance since arriving, its doors opening rarely, reserved for Torvi and the closest circle of her god. The sentries at the threshold straighten at her approach as they swing the heavy doors open. Inside, the hall smells of smoke and oak resin. An expansive empty entry chamber stretches before him, lit by the glow of a large hearth. Tables crowd the space, scattered with maps, parchment, half-drained tankards, and the discarded remnants of late-night councils. A handful of men stand at attention inside, but as Royce is pushed forward, their focus remains on Torvi. She glides ahead with effortless command. At the far side, a guarded door opens into a smaller chamber. The man stationed there wears armor different from the others, marking rank and importance. He steps aside at Torvi's nod, and Royce is escorted through. The room beyond is starkly different from the hall outside. Warm, well-appointed, almost intimate. Rich furs line the floor. Tapestries hang from the walls depicting battles and hunts. A wide bed dressed in embroidered furs and blankets dominates the corner. A carved table sits to the right, its surface clear, but for a single candle burning steadily. The hearth at the center glows hot, filling the room with a steady, welcoming heat. Give me 1 second here. Struggling to read tonight. Unlucky. Torvi unclasps her cloak and lays it across the stand, her movements unhurried and precise. Her eyes turned toward the guard who lingers. You may leave us. The man hesitates, his jaw tight, eyes flicking between Royce and Torvi. I'll be fine. Her tone sharpens just enough to cut away his reluctance. With a curt nod, the guard steps back and closes the door behind them. The latch falls into place, sealing Royce inside with her. For a long heartbeat, Torvi says nothing. The edge of anger that had marked her face is gone, replaced by something more controlled, more deliberate. She pulls a chair from the table, the legs scraping softly against the wooden floor, and gestures with an open hand. Sit, she says, her voice calm but firm. Royce hesitates at first, his shoulders tight, his body wound with suspicion. He crosses the room slowly, each step heavy, and lowers himself into the chair. His posture is rigid, every muscle braced, his eyes fixed on hers as though searching for the reason she has brought him here. Torvi watches him carefully, her expression unreadable, before finally lowering herself onto the chair opposite him. You have made quite the impression since the first time I laid eyes on you. Torvi begins, her voice calm but edged with intrigue. Brave enough to step forward when others would not. Bold enough to strike back at men who, days ago, treated you as little more than a chained beast. And you did it in a broken state, nonetheless. She lets the words hang in the air before moving gracefully toward a small table near the wall. Her movements are measured, like a predator circling prey. She pours 2 drinks, the rich scent of spiced mead filling the space. One she sets before Royce, the other she keeps for herself, remaining on her feet, just beside him. You are not the average slave, she says, tilting her head as though studying an enigma. I saw it the moment you stepped forward. So the question is, who are you, really? Royce's gaze drops to the cup before him. His throat tightens, a hard swallow echoing in the silence, before his eyes return to hers. My name is Royce, he says evenly. I am but a mere adventurer who found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her piercing blue eyes don't waver. She studies him as if peeling back the words themselves, searching for the truth beneath. Royce holds his composure, yet it feels as though her gaze pierces every wall he's built. Torvi moves closer, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. Royce feels his pulse quicken, and he wonders if she notices, if she can feel the drum of his heart through her palm. Even that, she murmurs, withdrawing her hand. Your accent betrays you. You are not of these lands. She turns and walks toward the fire, the flames throwing gold across her hair. Lifting her cup, she takes a slow sip, her other hand hovering over the fire's warmth. The moment stretches, heavy with unspoken meaning, before she speaks again, her voice quieter now, but sharper. A few of my men will return shortly. I sent them back to Holden's farm to learn who you are and where you came from. She pivots, her eyes fixing on Royce once more, the firelight casting her face half in shadow. So, Royce lowers his gaze again, staring at the untouched drink before him. His lips part as if to speak, but no words come out. The silence becomes his only answer. Torvi finishes her drink with slow precision, setting the cup down across from Royce. From behind the table, she retrieves a bucket of water and a folded cloth, the quiet slosh of water breaking the stillness. She approaches Royce, standing behind him. Her voice softens. Remove your shirt. Royce stiffens at the command, his eyes flicking up from the untouched drink before him. His head turns slightly, catching her outline in the fire's glow. Torvi sets the bucket at her feet and rolls up her sleeves with careful intent. Your wounds, she says gently. They seep through your tunic. If left, they will fester. They must be cleaned. Heat flushes Royce's face, a strange mix of embarrassment and pride twisting in his chest. Slowly, he pulls the fabric over his head. His body is revealed, bruises in various shades of blue and purple, fresh cuts, and across his back a tapestry of scars carved deep by whips and hardship. Torvi draws in a short breath before she can stop herself. For the briefest moment, her composure falters, her hand tightening around the cloth. Then she steadies herself, stepping closer. The sound of water being stirred fills Royce's ears, followed by the sudden icy press of the rag against raw flesh. Royce winces, his teeth gritting as the cold seeps into the open wounds. Easy, Torvi murmurs, her voice low, almost soothing, as though she regrets the sting she brings. She works with patience, moving from scar to scar. The rag dragging slowly across old pain reborn. Each touch pulls Royce back to memories he'd rather bury. The sting of leather, the taunts of the guards, the helplessness of chains. Then, unexpectedly, the rag falls still. A warmth replaces it, softer than cloth. Torvi's fingers brush against the deepest scar, tracing the jagged line with feather-light care. Royce's breath hitches. He doesn't move, doesn't dare to. The air between them thickens. Her hand lingers there, her thumb ghosting over the raised flesh, as if reading it like a rune. And in a voice scarcely above a whisper, she recites words Royce does not know. The cadence is strange, old tongue perhaps, a prayer or a fragment of something long forgotten. The sound carries weight, yet tenderness. Royce feels it, not just the touch of her hand, but the gravity of the moment. The fierce young woman who commands soldiers, armies, now stands behind him, her guard lowered, speaking words she does not explain. Vulnerability meets vulnerability. His scars, her ritual. When at last Torvi withdraws her hand, the air between them hums with unspoken weight, only to be shattered by a sharp knock at the door. Both Royce and Torvi turn their heads at once. Her calm voice, slices through the silence. Enter. The door swings open and a soldier stumbles in, his face pale, his breath quick. Panic clings to him like a second skin. My lady, urgent news. Tori does not move from where she stands, though her presence hardens in an instant. The gentle mask she had worn moments ago, replaced with the cold steel of command. Speak. The man hesitates, his eyes flickering toward Royce for the briefest moment before quickly darting back to Torvi. She notices, and with a glance over her shoulder at Royce, she says firmly, He is no threat. Continue. The soldier swallows and nods, forcing the words past his lips. We've returned from Holden's farm. It is gone, my lady. Set ablaze. The slaves freed. Holden and his men slaughtered. Royce's body surges with heat, his muscles tensing as though he might leap from his chair. But he forces himself still, jaw clenched tight, breath sharp in his throat. The man presses on, voice wavering. And the Yortmere camp, they suffered the same fate. Torvi steps forward, her boots whispering against the floorboards. Her eyes lock on the messenger, cold and probing. And who was responsible? The soldier takes a deep breath, his hands tightening at his sides. We don't know, but one man was left alive at the farm, tied and bound. They left him to deliver a message. He falters as though unsure if he dares to speak the words. Torvi's gaze sharpens, commanding the truth from him. The soldier finally blurts it out. They said, "Don't lose hope. We are coming for you." And scene.